Hi everyone. If the seller and buyer agree to no ball beetle certificate, I'm so proud I got that one out. Ball beetle certificate is like a tongue twister. Say that 5 times quickly, Bruno. That's your question.
Ball Beetle certificate.
Is it going to affect the transfer process, and how much does it cost to get one? Good luck.
Sure. Nice.
I
So
don't have a beetle image for you.
So for Beetle, or like Beetle certificate of compliance. So I think historically there were infestations in coastal towns which made this a requirement at a stage where a person would only buy the property if the certificate was in place. Now, subsequent to that, the certificate has become more and more rare. It's not really utilized all that much, but from like a legal, it must be in the contract versus practice. So now in practice, it's still there. So if you go to the coastal towns, Western Cape, KZN, you'll still find this there. You can contract out of it. So it's not an issue. You can, so a purchaser can basically waive their rights to it, or a purchaser could potentially take it on themselves and get a certificate done for their own benefit. So is it required by law? You can contract out of it. If you do stick to the standard, then absolutely you can ask the seller, especially in areas where the practice has been set as a precedent. So don't come to Gauteng and try and get one, because here people won't even know what it is. But in the coastal areas, obviously because of the history, the attorneys there would, like the attorneys we use there to do our registrations would obviously have more insight into this. What's worth mentioning though, so like bring in the Property Practitioners Act into play here. We do have to ask the question, and it actually goes into play in the first question as well. So it's so funny, in everything that we're speaking about, there's relevance. But what would the Property Practitioners Act say? And I think we need to start asking that at the end of every problem that we experience. So something like this, yeah, people contract out of it. Maybe if no one mentions it, no one will know. Consumer protection. I said that 3 times. So the relevance of that is you don't want a situation where you're aware that there's an infestation, because there are still infestations that take place. It's rare, but there are still infestations, especially with timber in the ceiling. So what if you're aware of this, or if you had to replace timber in the ceiling, you should be mentioning it, because, and I suppose it comes down to that. So a Property Practitioners Act is an estate agent responsible for getting a disclosure form? Absolutely. Would the seller be forced to disclose this if they're aware of it? Absolutely. And I mean, take it one step further, and this would be arguable, but I'd go so far as to say, if you're in an area where something is commonly known, it doesn't help to say, well, I don't know, I'm not aware of it happening with me. There would actually be almost an active duty to open up the trapdoor and check, because that's the reality. You might not know something that's happening in the foundations, too expensive to go figure it out. That I totally appreciate. Or something that you don't know of, like you didn't know that there was an issue. It turns out there's an issue, you're just as surprised. But if you're in an area that's commonly known for a specific type of problem, just because you haven't gone into the roof doesn't mean that you can go, I don't know, I'm not aware of it. Because if you are aware of it, because if you are aware of the problem in your area, climbing into the roof and saying this is the situation would probably be an expectation. But again, that's speculative. No one's actually tested that out yet, but I'd go so far as to say there'd be an active obligation.
I agree with you.